have a new promoter in town, and it's George Kaltzis Productions. And George might be here a little bit later on if anybody wants to do one-on-ones, but John Kaltzis is right here, and this is John right over here, bringing boxing back to the D. Now we're going to have a big event coming up the day before Thanksgiving at the Masonic Temple, and one of the people that is going to be featured on the card was Emmanuel's last protege. He's a junior middleweight. He comes in at 15 wins, no losses, 12 knockouts, and I want to introduce you to the next junior middleweight champion of the world, Tony Harrison, right here. Stand up, Tony. All right, let's see if I can read this right. Frank Garza, internationally known referee, recognized by Ring Magazine as the 6th best referee in the world, and by WBC, the top referees in the last 50 years of WBC history. That's pretty good, Frank. Frank Garza right here. Yeah. And I read that just as he wrote it. Okay? Word for word. That was it. So thank you very much. Masonic Temple, the day before Thanksgiving, we're going to have some exciting bouts, and we're going to have Tony Harrison there, and he's a joy to watch. Also, I think we're going to have Bronco McCart, who's winding down a magnificent career as a middleweight, is going to be there also, and might even put a championship belt on the line, but we'll see. Vicki, thank you. Where'd you go?
Yes, can we get a quick picture?
Oh, okay.
Picture, guys.
Okay. Quick picture.
Get in there too.
Get in there. Don't move, Dennis. One more. Thank you.
Sorry about my head.
Hey, Mike, you got film in there?
No, just wax. It's a fact. I know you still use film.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dennis. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Executive Director, George Eichhorn. George.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, we lost a member, one of our longtime associate members, and we please bow our heads and remember Jim Ramsey.
Gentlemen, if we can have your attention, we're going to get going with our program right now. That was good. That worked really well. We're going to get going with our program right now. If you haven't finished eating, feel free to do so, please. But at this time, it's my pleasure to announce the radio play-by-play voice of the Detroit Red Wings for 19 years now, Mr. Ken Cal.
Thank you, Vicki. Good turnout today. Thank you for coming out. How about a nice round of applause for a group of people that really go under the radar at the Joe, and they do so much for the organization. They put pom-poms during the playoffs on the seats. Anytime you ask them to do anything, they're always there. How about a nice round of applause for the Detroit Red Wing Forum Club members sitting back there. You guys do a great job, and it's always great to see your smiling faces on game day when we're at the Joe Louis Arena. Thank you for coming out today. A lot of people were asking me, or they've always asked me about the Red Wings moving to the East this year, and they're saying, geez, what are the Wings going to do? I mean, they got to play those tough teams like the Boston Bruins, and now Randy Carlyle's behind the bench for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they're going to get in your face and everything. And I just shake my head. I said, I don't know. That's why we got Kenny here today to tell us a little bit. But you know what? I just figured it out, Kenny. We have our man right here, Mr. Tony Harrison. He's 15-0. He's undefeated. And Tony, just afterwards, you know, Kenny, I'm sure you guys will talk and mingle. And, yeah. But anyway, thank you all for coming out today. And again, it's my pleasure to MC. And it's our annual DSBA Red Wings show, I guess you could call it, here at the Hockeytown Cafe. So let's introduce our special guest. First and foremost, General Manager of the Detroit Red Wings, Mr. Kenny Holland. Assistant General Manager of the Detroit Red Wings, Mr. Ryan Martin. special assistant to the general manager. I call him a former player, and he's a great guy. Chris Draper, come on. Now, basically, what we're going to do is we're going to have our special guest just go over the season, and then we'll take questions. I'll start it off, and then anybody who has a question, we have a roving microphone. Raise your hand and ask your questions. One thing before we get going, guys, Chris made a good point. We're always looking for new members in the Detroit Sports Broadcasters Association. So Chris came up to me today. He goes, "What about Ozzy? He's a reporter now. He works for TV. Where is he? Yeah. How come he's not here today?"
How about Ken Daniels?
Well, Ken had prior to commitment, I guess they say. But Chris, we got to get him to pay his dues. What are they, like 60, 70 bucks, something like that?
We got 120.
We're going to have to turn him on his head and just shake those pennies out of his wallet or pockets. All right, first and foremost, Kenny, the season's starting today, really. 3 games around the National Hockey League, and then the Red Wings get their season going tomorrow against the Buffalo Sabres. Give people here a thought about your thoughts and expectations going into this season.
Well, I mean, obviously,
You're on. Yeah.
sorry. I think that obviously our expectations and goals are to make the playoffs, and ultimate goal is to.
Ultimate goal, there we go. Ultimate goal, obviously, is to be the last team standing in June, but that's so far. Fortunately, we've won some championships and lost in the finals. It's such a long process. I don't think you're worried about winning the Stanley Cup in October. Right now, we're worried about beating Buffalo tomorrow night. Yesterday, we were worried about making some decisions about putting our final roster together. But if you look at our team, we were just talking about at the table. Coming into 2005, when the salary cap was implemented, we were going from a $75 million payroll to a $39 million payroll, and there was obviously concern, were we going to be able to compete? And fortunately, we were able to kind of make some moves and continue to be a playoff team. And through the years, we've been a team in transition with a lot of stars that have retired, and our scouts have done a great job in drafting and developing. And going into last year with the retirement of Lidstrom and Stewie going to on defense, going to San Jose, we had a lot of concerns and questions on defense, but our kids stepped up and did a great job. So I think that last year was a real important year for us with the development of some of our kids. Down the stretch, we were in a must-win situation, probably the last 4, 5, 6 games, and we won our last 4 in a row. So I don't think anything's changed. Our goals and expectations are to be a playoff team and compete for the Stanley Cup. But again, it's a long process, and we're a team that's evolving. We felt that last year we needed more secondary scoring. I think part of the reason we didn't score as much last year, basically we played the whole year without Samuelson, Bertuzzi, and Helm. It's an NHL line. We brought the kids up, and they did a good job. Tatar, Nyquist, Joachim Anderson. But those other guys they're pros, and they played in they know how to be pros, and the other young players are still learning how to be pros. So we went out, we obviously signed Stephen Weiss, we signed Daniel Alfredson. We're hoping with a little more luck with health and with the moves that we made that we'll score a little bit more, and that our young defensemen can play as well as they did last year, and we can have a good year, but lots has to happen.
Ryan, you're very good at numbers, and we all know about the salary cap. The cap went down. Talk a little bit about your role and how you make all those numbers work.
Well, the cap did go down, and then I'd say the other big rule with the new CBA is that you can no longer bury contracts in the minors. There's a little bit of limited relief when you send contracts down to the American League, but for the most part, all those big one-way contracts count on everybody's cap, so it requires more planning and more due diligence before players are signed. Fortunately, I think as a group we made a couple great decisions in bringing in Weiss and Alfredson and some of our young kids that might be at lower end salaries are starting to play more important roles. So, Kenny and I years ago talked about a bit of a model with the more guys you could have making less than $1 million or $1.5 million, and if those guys can really contribute to the roster, the better off the whole cap situation is going to be. So even though the cap came down, unfortunately those younger guys coming up can play a little bit more important role and help make ends meet.
Chris, you played a number of years with the Detroit Red Wings, of course, winning all those Stanley Cups. How do you see your role right now, and inform the people here today at Hockeytown and exactly what you do?
Well, yeah, fortunately I was able to finish a playing career and walk right into the front office with Ken Holland and at the time Jim Nill and Ryan Martin. Obviously Jim Nill's left, so there's a little bit more responsibility available. Last year was really my full-time working. I saw a lot of, when we started up, I saw the Detroit Red Wings play a lot of home games, as many as I could. Saw a lot of junior games and tried to get as prepared and knowledgeable with the draft as I possibly could. And our picks that we had in the second round, I saw them probably each of those guys 8 to 10 times. Nastasiuk was second round pick, and Bertuzzi was a second round pick as well. So I saw those guys play quite a bit, and when their names came up, I was able to give some input on what I thought they could be and their potential. And also, it was great watching our Grand Rapids team, the Griffins, go on to win the Calder Cup. Was able to travel with them, had a real fun night during the tornadoes and hurricanes in Oklahoma City. Ozzie and I spent about 2 hours bunkered down underneath the parking structure, but got to see those guys obviously do tremendous things. We had some great young hockey players that are now going to play for the Detroit Red Wings, and they had great runs. And Thomas Tatar was the most valuable player of the Calder Cup playoffs. I think he scored 16 goals. Scored 16 goals, and he had a very good preseason for us. And this is a guy that just has a knack for scoring big goals, and I think he's going to be someone that is going to play a good role for our hockey club here to come. So really just being able to stay involved in the game, get to watch a lot of hockey, something that certainly I enjoy doing, and get to have some input with both Ken and Ryan is something that I'm enjoying.
Before we get to your questions, one more question for Ken Holland. Ken, over the last couple of days, you had to make some difficult decisions as far as paring the roster down. Talk about the moves that you made and your decisions for that.
Well, we have a couple of players that we put on long-term injury that ultimately we still have decisions to make. Yesterday we put Patty Eaves and Darren Helm on long-term IR. Long-term IR means that they have to miss a minimum of 10 games and 24 days. And then they're eligible to come off of LTI and play. So we're hoping that sometime right about the end of the LTI they're going to be ready. So we still have major decisions to make, but those two injuries really factored into the decisions that we made. We put a player on waivers, Corey Emerton. He cleared. He's going to play tomorrow night, and we end up sending Gus Nyquist to the American Hockey League. We needed some cap relief. Ultimately, we want to get him back. We think he's an NHL player. We think he can help us win. So for now, we did what we've got to do to be as ready as we can tomorrow night competitively, and at the same time cap compliant.
You made the transition to the East, and everybody keeps saying it's a rougher, tougher division. You all draft out of the same pool. Is it that much different going into the East? Is it a little bit meaner and all that sort of thing? Is there more fighting in the East than there is in the? I know we're having a little problem here. Is that much different that you might even have to change a little bit, or is that overblown? That's number one. Number two, poor Helmer, will he ever come back?
Going to the East, I'm not sure statistically. I think there's probably some teams that like to fight. I don't know if there's many teams in the East that are any better and bigger than LA Kings, Anaheim Ducks, and St. Louis Blues. We played 10 games against Anaheim, 3 regular season games. When we went into Anaheim in March, they hadn't lost a game in regular season in 19 consecutive games. We beat them twice in a row in Anaheim. We obviously knocked out Anaheim out of the playoffs in Game 7. We played St. Louis 5 times. We won 3. We lost twice. I'm not sure of our record against LA. I know we beat LA at home here 4-1 the last week of the season in a must-win game. They needed the game to try to get home ice in the playoffs. So, I don't know how you're going to get any bigger. LA won the Stanley Cup a year ago. St. Louis is being picked by some people to win the Stanley Cup. So, I think we're going east, and it's the National Hockey League, and it's not much different than the West. Is there a little more fighting? In a cap world, in my opinion, every team has some flaws. The team that has the least flaws is going to be the team that's standing in June. We got to go through a process. You can't have good toughness and big and score, and you got small scooter balls, and you've got 3 goaltenders deep, and you got 9 defensemen, and you've got 17 forwards that can play. Nobody has that. You need some luck with injuries. The morning of Game 7 last year against Chicago, Dan Cleary came to me and showed somebody had tweeted that of the 5 remaining teams, we were playing Chicago that night, LA, Pittsburgh, and Boston. Those other 4 teams were 30, 29, 28, 27 in man games lost to injury. We were number 1. We had the most man games lost to injury last year. You need to have good luck with injuries, and if you're going to lose people, it's going to have an effect on ultimately on the outcome. We're in a parity league. The days that we could kind of put out a B team and beat, those days are over. That was yesteryear. There's a cap involved. It's $64 million, and I would say to you, 20 to 24 teams are going to the cap. We have no advantage over any of these other teams. That's the beauty of the National Hockey League. So part of being successful is having good luck with injuries. We're trying to draft, we're trying to develop. As Drape said, we won the American League Championship in Grand Rapids using a 20-year-old goalie, Peter Mrazek. De Kaiser played in the team, Brian Lashoff played in the team, Anderson, Nyquist, Tatar, Riley Sheehan, Thomas Jerko, Landon Ferraro. They're young players that we think have a chance to play in the NHL. We just had a prospect tournament in Traverse City. The tournament started in 1997 with 4 teams. It's now an 8-team tournament. The first time in the history of that tournament, the Detroit Red Wing prospects won that tournament. We have a lot of good kids. Sent them back to junior and back to Europe. Some are going to the American Hockey League. We were just talking over there, trying to get players from the draft table at the age of 18 to the National Hockey League to help you win. We haven't had the luxury to go to the draft and have the number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4th overall pick and put that player right from junior right onto our roster. We got to draft, we got to develop, we got to have a plan, we got to believe in the plan, we got to believe in the culture, and because when we go to that draft, when we're picking 20 and 28 and we trade our first pick in 32, we're getting guys that the industry feels is the 28th best prospect in the draft, the 29th best prospect in the draft, the 35th best prospect, and the 24th. So we have to have a plan. The plan is one of patience. The plan is one to have older players to mentor the younger players, and we've got to believe in the culture, and we got to believe in the history, the city, the ownership. Those are the things that we've got to believe in. So, when we go east, to change the plan's going to take 6 years to change. If we want to change the plan, it's going to take 6 years to change the plan, because in my opinion, these NHL teams are like ocean liners on the ocean, and when you want to change course, you just don't whip them and do a 360. Like, you got to slowly change course, one decision at a time. So, I'll put what's gone on in Detroit against, stacking up 22 consecutive, and sit here and talk about our accomplishments. There's some years when our plan isn't the right plan. There's some years when our plan is the plan. So we're sticking to what we believe in. We're going east. We got to roll 4 lines. As long as you got players on your team, when the other team is physical and they don't back off and they don't change the way they play, Zetterberg, no one's going to change the way Z plays. No one's going to change the way Pav plays. No one's going to change the way Kroner plays. I don't care how big, how tough, how hard those other teams are. If you've got enough, that to me is toughness. Toughness is to go into the hard areas time after time after time, and you continue to go back and you continue to win the battles. If that other team tries to deter you and ultimately you start to shy away and you got a team, you're not tough enough. And I think through the years, we play hard, we play tough, we protect the puck, and when you've got a team, Todd Bertuzzi, Jordan Tutu, Abby's a big guy, Jonathan Erickson, a big guy to fight. We've got some guys in there that'll play hard. They will drop the gloves if they have to, but we've always liked 4 lines that can score, and I think in a league where it's hard to score, to eliminate your 4th line and put on 2 tough guys that are one-dimensional guys and they fight, that's great. but it's too hard to get goals. I'd rather try to figure out a way to get 10 goals, 8 goals, and 10 goals, because if you can score 250 goals, you're going to be near the league leader in teams. And if your fourth line can produce 10% of your goals needed, you're going to win some games. Are we going to have the odd night where we're not built to respond? Yeah, because I'm back to again, nobody, in my opinion, has a complete team. That's why there's parity. That's why we're going to find out the last 10 games. There's going to be lots of teams fighting for the 8th spot in the West, and lots of teams fighting for the 8th spot in the East, or the 4th. They've changed the format, but lots of teams fighting for the division. It's parity. There's lots of teams really, really close, and there's more than one way to have success.
What about Hal?
Good. Helmer is. We put him on LTI. We practiced today. We think his back issues are a thing of the past. He hurt his groin just before training camp started. He's just started to skate the last couple of days. We put him on. He needs a training camp. He's played one game in 18 months. That's why we put him on LTI. He's gonna practice every day for 2 weeks. Near the end of LTI, we're gonna put him into Grand Rapids, I think, for a game or two, if everything goes according to plan. So it's going to be a week of sort of getting going. It's going to be a week of practicing hard. It's going to be a couple of games where we'll talk about sending him down, and then he'll be ready to ramp up and play. And obviously, you can't read the future. I don't expect any setbacks. It looks like we're heading in the right direction. Certainly, he's an important guy. We need him back.
Ken, the shortened season last year, what effect did that have on the Red Wings in getting to where you want to be this year? Is the carryover a negative or a positive for the Red Wings?
Well, I think that, when you play 48 games or 82 games, it's a level playing field. We all knew it was a sprint. We went into last season, there's no Lidstrom and there's no Stewart. Our defense was getting overhauled, and then first game we lost Carla Koliakovo in St. Louis. By the third game we lost Brendan Smith. I think the 4th or 5th game, Ian White got cut by Jimmy Howard's skate, and we were just patching. We were trying to stay afloat, and we were trying to hang in the race to get our people back. And over 82 games, it's a little easier because you've got there's more games, so you can kind of get off track a little bit longer. But certainly, I thought we did a good job. Mike Babcock did a tremendous job in getting the most out of our team, playing the young kids, and I thought the leadership of Pav and Z and Kroner and Jimmy Howard, I look at those 4 guys as really being our leadership group. They were all healthy, they played, and they allowed us to hang in the race and ultimately get our team back together down the stretch. And when you're up 3-1 against Chicago, you want to finish it off. That's it's a disappointing way to finish the year. But I think that lots of good things happened last year. Obviously signing of Dan DeKaiser deciding to leave Western Michigan and sign with us. He had 30 teams pursuing him. He's a guy that is going to be in the lineup tomorrow night. He's a 23-year-old, 6'4" defenseman. The development of Jakob Kindle. I thought the development of Jimmy Howard, the development of Abdul Kader and Eriksson, Brendan Smith and Thomas Tatar and Joachim Anderson and Gustav Nyquist ended up getting some minutes, and they're learning to be pros. So I thought a lot of good things come out of last year that we hope are going to be building blocks for us going into this season, with the addition, obviously, of Elfie and Weiss. So hopefully enough good things happened last year, and the additions that we made, and we're going to get injuries. That's a part of the game. You hope you're 10th in the league in injuries and not number 1 in the league in injuries. You need to get a little bit of luck with injuries, and obviously to your key people. But if we can get a little bit of luck here and build on the development and the additions are the right fit, we've got the potential to have a good hockey team. But again, it's a work in progress, and you play tomorrow night against Buffalo, you practice, you jump on a plane, you go to Carolina Friday, and you go to Boston, and every day, in the meantime, go to Grand Rapids, we watch players in the system and make phone calls. We've got to make moves to our team here over the next month or 2 to sort out, the cap situation. But it's I think we've got the potential to have a good team and a good year, but you need lots of things to happen in the positive.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the corner you were boxed into? as far as trying to keep Damian Brunner?
In the summertime, obviously Damian Brunner was unrestricted. And I'll go back a little bit. As we headed into last season, Jimmy Howard was unrestricted, was going to be unrestricted. Damian Brunner was a one-year contract under the CBA. That's all we could sign him to coming out of Switzerland. Who else? Dan Cleary. Kendall was unrestricted. And as the year wore on, we obviously signed Jimmy Howard to a 6-year deal. We needed to, I think the agent for Brunner and myself both wanted the year to go out, so we both knew what he could do, what he was all about. We went in the off season. We signed Jakob Kindl. It's hard to find defensemen. He's homegrown, so you take Jimmy Howard from $2 million, 2.25 cap number to 5.3. There's $3 million more. Kindl goes from an 8.75 cap number to 2.4. You're eating away at your cap. Ultimately, as we headed into July the 5th, I offered Dan Cleary a 3-year deal, and I offered Damian Brunner a 2-year deal and a 3-year deal. They both thought that they could get more money in the open market, or wanted to use the open market as an opportunity to squeeze more money out of the Detroit Red Wings. And all of a sudden, on July the 4th, the day before free agency, July the 5th, we're on a phone call, Mike Babcock and I, with Daniel Alfredson. And Alfie, even though he's 40 years of age, our people think he's a tremendous player. He was entertaining thoughts of leaving Ottawa, and obviously it's a 1-year deal, and it was structured 3-5 salary, $2 million in bonuses. There's cap money. We got to July the 5th. We needed a number 2 centerman. We had conversations internally and externally with obviously Val Filppula, who was ours, with Stephen Weiss, with 1 or 2 or 3 other guys. We ultimately made a decision. We needed a number 2 centerman, and we signed Stephen Weiss. The money's gone, and that's why, so Brunner wanted to be a Red Wing, Cleary wanted to be a Red Wing. The money's gone. It's a cap world, and we felt great about re-signing Howard. We felt great about keeping Jakob Kindl, who's a 26-year-old defenseman. We felt great about adding Daniel Alfredson. We felt great about adding Stephen Weiss. You're done. We can all count to 64. We're done. and ultimately, I did stay in touch with both those players. If things change, if we moved anybody, and ultimately, Dan Cleary flew up to Traverse City the day before, and his salary requests that he was looking for, he drastically reduced to find a way to stay and fit in. Damian Brunner ultimately signed a 2-year deal with New Jersey for 2 years at 2.5. So, we tried to re-sign those guys. They made a decision. They wanted more money. And on July the 5th at noon, we had to move. I couldn't sit around to see and miss out on some people. We moved. We're thrilled with the moves. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Brian and Chris,
Out of the youngsters that you've seen so far, talk a little bit about who some of the players are that have really impressed you and why.
On the team or in the organization?
In the organization.
Well, like Ken said, coming out of the prospect tournament, it's the first time we've won that tournament. It was a chance for all the amateur and the pro scouts, as well as us, to see these kids play against their own peer group. I'd say, Xavier Ouellette is a guy, a Quebec Major Junior League Defenseman of the Year that shows a ton of upside. Ryan Sproul was the OHL and Canadian Hockey League Player of the Year, a defenseman and Player of the Year respectively. He's a guy that shows a ton of upside. Jake Patterson, a goalie that's being considered to be one of Canada's 3 goalies for the World Junior team, and someone that we just agreed to terms with on a contract to get into our entry-level system. He's a guy that shows a ton of upside. The guys in Grand Rapids, Peter Mrazek, the guys in Grand Rapids, last year, the young guys coming up like Luke Glendening, Thomas Jurko, Landon Ferraro, Riley Sheen. It's the first time that since I've been in the organization in the last 8 years where there's just a lot of young guys coming up through the system. I think we've got a tremendous coach in Grand Rapids and Jeff Blashill to help develop them, and obviously the record speaks for himself from last year. It was a great year for them.
Just building off that, we were actually just checking stats last week. Our first round pick, Anthony Mantha, he had 4 goals in 1 game and was the Quebec League Player of the Week already. So he's got off to a great start. Just in touch with some of our scouts, some of the players that we drafted. Both Nastasiuk and Bertuzzi are off to great starts as well with their respective teams and in the OHL. And so I think, just building off what Ryan said and certainly what Ken said, we have some great guys that have turned pro that we're very excited about and to watch their development. And certainly Jeff Blashill has done a tremendous job with these guys, along with the veteran players that we have in Grand Rapids as well. Those guys have been great leaders, and they realize that right now, they're not going to play in the NHL anymore. And they bought into that, and they bought into the system that Jeff Blashill has put in place, and they just mentor these young guys. Our captain Hogan down there had a huge influence on Thomas Yurko. During the lockout, we were going up, probably every weekend and watching Thomas Yurko play. And there's sometimes we jump in the car and just really wanted more from this guy. And all of a sudden, he started spending more time with Hogan, the captain of the team. And his second half of the season into the playoffs, he turned himself into a player and into a prospect. So that's somebody we're excited about as well. So it's fun to watch these guys. When you're a player, you kind of get nervous when you see all these good guys coming up and pushing you. And I think you can see that in at our training camp, very competitive training camp. And I think all the everyone associated with the draft and our prospects was obviously very excited to watch these kids play against the other prospects throughout the other 7 teams that were up there in that tournament, and did a great job. Beat some high-end prospect and some very skilled teams that came up there. So it was great to see these kids go out and win that tournament for the first time, like Ken said. But just watching them play and the way they carried themselves and the way they handled themselves on and off the ice, there's some good things coming, and it's a great situation to be in.
And I would add one thing. We were just talking a minute ago about an ocean liner. Anthony Mantha, who's the guy he's talking about from the Quebec League. He's a 6'4" left winger. Riley Sheen's a 6'2", 215-pound center iceman. What's Ryan's role? 6'3". Danny DeKaiser's 6'3", 6'4". Lashov is 6'2", 6'3". We've got, there's some other, Nastasiuk, of course, a second-round pick who we like is 6'2". To what we were talking about earlier, we're working on getting bigger. We've talked about getting bigger. These are ocean liners. These 18-year-old drafts that we're drafting, our first-round pick is a 6'4" left winger. Our second-round pick, Nastasiuk, is a 6'2" center right winger. They're 5 and 6 years away. We believe they're going to get there, but in the meantime, we got to put the players on the ice that we think can give us the best chance we can to win every night this year. And we'll worry about 17, 18 when we get there. So, we're going to try to slowly, methodically get bigger. We're trying to head in that direction, but in the meantime, we've got to again get back to believe in where we're at right now.
If I could, I wanted to get all 3 of your perspectives on this. In regards to the NFL concussion lawsuit settlement, the $765 million that the NFL retirees got, do you think this is going to have any impact at all on the NHL as far as NHL retirees coming out and saying, hey, you know what, we need to put together our own class action lawsuit because we've got brain trauma, we've got CTE or whatever. Have you heard rumblings of that? Do you think? Do you guys see
The only thing I could say is obviously I go to general manager meetings, and we meet 3 times a year. Over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, we're constantly trying to come up with new rules to protect the players. As an example, yesterday we introduced the hybrid icing. I'm not sure if when you ice the puck, you're in one zone and you ice the puck. There's always been a race to touch the puck, and every year we seem to have one player have a significant injury with a broken leg or something affects her. Last year was Yoni Pitkin, and he's out all this year. So we've implemented, now it's a race to an imaginary line by the hash marks. So we're trying to eliminate races to the boards. if you get two players get into a fight, we now have mandated we want those players to keep their helmets on. Those players used to take their helmets off, and we're concerned that in a fight, somebody's going to fall down and hit his head on the ice. We used to have, if a player was coming through the neutral zone and looking back for a pass, and he got absolutely leveled by the defenseman, that used to be a great hit. That's now an illegal hit. There's an onus on the hitter to make sure that the player he's hitting is able to protect himself. 10, 15 years ago, you used to see plays along the boards where people were cross-checking and they go into the end boards. If you hit somebody from behind, it's now a penalty. So from a rules standpoint, we are constantly, I believe we're evolving, and we're trying to keep that physicality in the game, but we're trying to make the workplace as safe as possible for our players. How long ago did Shanahan get hired? The director of, what's his title? Of safety. Department of Safety. So Shanny got a title, Department of Safety, and he does suspensions. So there's now a Department of Safety, and that's all he does. He's got people that watch games every night, and if they see something that they think is is either something to look at for suspension or should be suspended, they forward to him, and he's got people looking at all these games. So from a league standpoint, we're trying to do more and more and more. We're trying to be proactive to make the workplace as safe as possible. And I would say to you that I played pro hockey from 1975 to 85, and Drapes played 1,000 games in the National Hockey League. When did your career go from about 91 to 011? You played 20 years. When I played, if you had a bit of a headache, take an aspirin and get back out there, or maybe you missed one practice. Now we've got protocol when a player is hit in a game, and we put him, what do they call that room? The quiet room. He's got to be taken off the ice. He goes back into a quiet room, and he gets through a test by doctors. So I guess it's a long-winded answer of saying, our league has evolved from, even in the last 5 years, 6, 7, 8 years, to constantly talking about implementing rules that make it a safer workplace. The thing you talked about, a clash action, that's above me and beyond me. I guess all I can talk about is what we're trying to do at the general manager's level to make the game as safe as we possibly can. You're still going to have some injuries, but we want to protect the players as much as we possibly can. Part of the excitement of our game, I think, is that physicality. Two big bodies going in the corner and banging away for a puck battle. So we're trying to keep that physicality in the game, but protecting players from situations where they can't protect themselves.
I just have one thing to add to that. I know I was in a rink last night. I coach my daughter's U12 girls team, and right on the front wall when you walk in, there's now a new concussion poster. And so there's been a great deal of money put into educating the coaches at the youth league level through USA Hockey about concussion education, and to make sure that those coaches who are in a position of responsibility are taking care of the kids. And last week I'm down in Grand Rapids talking to the trainer. For the first time, they've expanded the concussion baseline testing through the physical process to include everybody on a minor league contract. So now all those teams that are running minor league teams at the American and East Coast League level have an idea of even players under a minor league contract where they should be with their baseline. So to Ken's point, not only have the rules on the ice become stricter in terms of looking out for that, but the off-ice education of both the medical personnel and the management and the players themselves has become way better.
Chris, just want to talk about the Winter Classic, the Alumni Showdown, America Park, excitement's built. more and more players are being added to the roster, and I know you're one of them. The grind line's going to be reunited, so.
Yeah, we actually, if anyone was at the game Friday night, excuse me, we went out and did a ceremonial puck drop. Mickey Redmond and Rick Vive for Mickey Redmond, obviously for us, Rick Vive for the Leafs, and just talking to Brad May and Darcy Tucker, they're talking about how excited Toronto is and the players are to be a part of something like this. For myself, probably one of my career highlights was playing in the Winter Classic at Wrigley Field. That was an absolute blast how they handled it too. Obviously, the Illich family went over the top as they always did. They flew the families in the night before on Redbird. We had an open skate for our families after practice, so they actually got to go on Wrigley Field and skate, which was a huge thrill. And then obviously, anytime we beat the Chicago Blackhawks that we talked about, it kind of puts the icing on the cake. So that was just something that we were all thrilled to be a part of, and now to have one right here in the way they're doing it, obviously with the two rinks, having at Comerica Park, where there's just going to be the hockey festival. I think it's going to be outstanding. I was with the president of Saginaw Spirit, and he was talking about how excited they are to have their team down there. Obviously, Grand Rapids is going to play the Toronto Marlies there, and I know on December 31st there's 2 games that are going to be played. I'm still talking to Kenny to try to get into both games. I really hope I could do that. But then just everything that goes on with it. I know there's going to be a little Caesars Day down there where a lot of the youth kids can go out and play. I know they're renting the ice. That's going to be available for corporations and for people to purchase. And I mean, talk about a great night. You go down to Comerica Park and you have your skates and your hockey bag, and you lace them up and you go for a skate under the lights. I mean, it's just going to be a tremendous couple weeks down here, and then hammering home up at the big house in Ann Arbor when Detroit, Toronto. We were Friday night. We were just commenting on the atmosphere in a preseason game, how great it was, and how passionate both the Toronto Maple Leafs fans were and the Detroit Red Wings fans were. At the let's go Red Wings, and in between it would be the go Leafs go, and then they keep going back and forth, and it's just going to be it's going to be something special. It's going to create a lot of memories for a lot of people. Not only the players that get to play in the games, the alumni games as well, but certainly for the guys that are going to play in the big house. And it's just going to shatter records with the crowd and the expectations that are going to be in that game. And I know we're all looking forward to it. To play in the game and then certainly go up there the next day and watch the Winter Classic in Ann Arbor. It's going to be an outstanding event.
All right, at this time I'd like to thank Kenny, Ryan, Chris for coming out, and they do it all the time. And all the pro teams that come in here, I think you guys are the best. I'm a little partial, but you do a great job enlightening everybody here at the SBA luncheon.
You're the best.
Thanks. Yeah. Hey, don't forget, there's only about 500 tickets left for tomorrow, less than 500 tickets. So if you want to head to the game, make sure you get it out to the Joe Louis Arena box office. And again, Detroit Buffalo tomorrow, 8 o'clock start. So NBC Sports, nationally broadcast. So again, if you can make it, I'd like to have you out there. Again, thank you, and thank you for showing up today. Vicki, do you have any closing words, or are we done?
No, we
Okay.
fabulous.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Luncheon, and I am with longtime Red Wing and now the assistant to the assistant general manager, Mr. Chris Draper.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here today,
Yeah,
Chris.
no problem. Yeah, it's I was here last year with Kenny and enjoyed myself. And anytime you get to sit up front and talk about the Detroit Red Wings and hockey, it's always fun to do. Thank you.
Hey, this time of year, and again, being an ex-player for 20 years in the NHL, how is the transition for you going from the front office, from the ice to the front office, especially when you look in great shape? I'm sure you can still put the wheels on. How's the transition been?
So if you're asking me, do I miss it? The answer is absolutely. But you know what? Hey, listen, I had a great run. Very fortunate to play over 1,000 games for the Detroit Red Wings, and obviously the 4 Stanley Cups, and then to be able to walk, right out of the rink and out of the NHL into the front office and work with Ken and work with Ryan is, something I realize how fortunate I am. and just learning is what I'm doing. Learning, and Kenny just keeps talking about you gotta watch hockey. So I'm trying pretty well. I'll be at our game tomorrow night. Obviously watching Detroit Buffalo, and then from there I'll probably see games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday as well. So pretty busy. Try to catch as much hockey as I can and try to gain as much knowledge as I can for not only our players but also players from other organizations, and try to chip in in the entry-level draft as well.
Now with the Red Wings bringing in a couple players, sub-organizations, again, long-time leader in Ottawa with Danny Alfredson, and then you got Stephen Weiss, who as a young player has been in the league for 10 years, a leader in Florida. You've been there when the Wings have brought in some other leaders. What can they expect for the current captains of the Wings, how to approach those players that have been in that leadership role and are coming into a new territory?
Yeah, well, Daniel Alfredson obviously have played with Henrik Zetterberg, Nicholas Kronwall in probably some Team Sweden's, playing in the Olympics, playing in the World Championships, obviously very familiar with one another. That's kind of how the ball started getting rolling. Daniel Alfredson reached out to Henrik Zetterberg. He kind of tell me everything about the Detroit Red Wings, and as soon as he did that, he's like, this is I want to come here, and so that was a very big surprise, obviously, on free agency. I think everyone in the hockey world thought Alfredson was going to re-sign with the Senators, and we're just thrilled to have him. He's obviously a great hockey player, he's a great leader, and he's a great person. Those are the three things that you love adding to your hockey team. Stephen Weiss, same, he played hockey here with Plymouth Whalers, very familiar with hockey in Michigan, and certainly the Detroit Red Wings. Just talking to him, the one thing they can't believe is how hard these guys work on and off the ice. And I don't think it's a fluke that the Detroit Red Wings are always there year in and year out, every year, because of the work ethic that these guys have. And it's a culture that Kenny talked about it earlier. It's a culture that was started. Steve Yzerman was always one of the first guys at the rink, one of the hardest working guys on the ice and off the ice. Dominic Hasek, Chris Chelios, these guys, just continue, to get better and really just push the envelope, and that's why they play so long. That's why they are, Hall of Famers and some of the greatest players to play our game. So now these young guys have bought into that. Obviously Henrik Zetterberg, Pavel Datsyuk. You see those guys before the game, before practice they're working out, after game they're working out. So now the young guys, they have no choice. When those guys are on the bike and working out, they have no choice but to do the same thing. And that's what Darren Helm has done, and Justin Abdelkader has done, and our young defensemen, Danny DeKaiser, Brendan Smith, Jakob Kindle. That's why, that culture that we talk about, we're very proud of. And these guys just continue to do it, and they continue to do it. And I think it's a big reason why, we're expecting another big year out of this group.
Yeah, that work ethic, as you mentioned, is definitely, it could be contagious. And it's probably a lot of the success for the last 22 years for reaching the playoffs from your inception coming into the Wings also. The new rules, quickly, a couple of them. What do you feel about the icing rule, and as far as for the helmets during the fights?
Yeah, well, the helmet and the fight one I never really had to worry about. But just like what Kenny's talking about, just the safety of the players. That, in the heat of the moment and the passion of the game, something's going to happen. But you just really want these guys to protect themselves. Obviously, we've seen, some players on our team. Patrick Eves went through, had a real tough time with a concussion. Obviously, everyone's well aware of what Sidney Crosby went through with all his concussion problem. So it's a big problem. You want to protect the players, and you certainly want to protect our star players. So, I think that's a good rule. The hybrid icing, I think it's going to be good. The one thing that it allows is for the faster guys, the skaters. I always loved a race to try to get to the other defenseman and annul an icing. You still have that, yet you can still keep the player safe. So it still adds to that. Obviously, if you're going back and that D-man has a couple steps on you, they're going to blow the whistle right there. You're not even going to get close to the boards, and that's a safety issue right there. Obviously, with Yanni Pitkinen, got hurt last year. He's going to miss all this season. Curtis Foster, the same thing when he was playing. He had a real bad injury as well. So anytime you get a chance to protect the players, but you still have that competitive edge, you're doing the right thing.
And quick and final, now with the pregame meal, what is it now?
Mine is more, for me, salad. I got to stay light.
Oh, still.
But for
for the players, they'll the same thing. They'll get a lot of protein in there. They'll get their pasta. They'll get their veggies, and the tough thing
No
is,
Burger King for you now or anything
I
beforehand.
gotta get ready for the Winter Classic.
There you go.
I gotta keep my competitive edge.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you being here, Chris.
Appreciate it.
Best wishes in your endeavors
Thank
with the Red
you.
Wings front office, and looking forward to seeing you later. Hey, Chris Draper, friends, go check out Detroit Red Wings tomorrow, Buffalo. Coming up, season tickets still available. Signing off for Detroit City TV, Tommy Morris.
Thank you. All right.
Best wishes, man.
Thank you
you.
very much. Very nice to meet you.
No, it's good. How you doing? Tommy Morris here, Detroit City TV, again from Hockeytown Cafe, the Detroit Sports Broadcasters Association annual Red Wing Luncheon, and I'm joined here by Mr. Ken Holland, the general manager for the Detroit Red Wings. Ken, another season opening tonight for the NHL. The Wings have it tomorrow. You acquired a couple, veteran players in the offseason with Danny Alfredson, leaders, and again, it's Stephen Weiss with the Florida Panthers. What are your expectations for them in the locker room and in their roles this year?
Well, we're hoping that they bring a lot of different ingredients. First off, we need a little more scoring. We didn't score enough last year. We're hoping that they provide some secondary offense, along with maybe getting a little bit healthier in the development of some of our kids. And then Alfie's been a captain, and Stephen Weiss was an assistant captain. So we're bringing in two players that in their respective teams they had leadership roles, and you're bringing in guys into your locker room that they're leaders and they know the responsibility of having a letter. And even though they might not have a letter here, they're certainly obviously going to help Pav and Z and Kroner. And I think also it was important that we kept Dan Cleary to have a group of people that when things are going bad or they're going good, make sure that it's a level, even keel. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and you need not only do you need some talent on the ice, but you need good leadership in the locker room, and we think that they're going to help us in both places.
Now, you touched upon building the farm system, the Grand Rapids Griffins. It's really come to fruition now. It's a very strong club, winning last year. You have a lot of great young talent there. How do you go, now that it's a horrible problem to have, I would imagine now, but how do you go about protecting those players when some of them may be ready to come up and fill some spots over the next couple of years? How do you go about trying to protect those players, keep them in the Wing system?
Well, one of the things we work out is the waiver wire, and obviously we made a decision yesterday where Gustav Nyquist can clear waivers. We sent him to Grand Rapids. In our mind, we've got an NHL player in the American Hockey League. When we have some injuries, we can call up an NHL forward. Thomas Tatar and Joachim Anderson can't clear waivers, so they're on the Detroit Red Wings, and they're not going back to the American Hockey. Their days in the American Hockey League are done. So, I think it's important. You want depth. We want people pushing for jobs. We want our veteran players to know that there's people clipping at their heels. You want that internal competition. So it's taken us a while, but our scouts have done a tremendous job. We've tried, since 2005. We've been conservative. We haven't traded as many draft picks. Prior to 2005, I think we traded 8 first-round picks from 95 to 2005 to acquire guys like Shanahan and Paul Coffey and Dominic Hasek and Robert Lang and Matthew Schneider, Chris Chelios. We've been much more conservative because that's the league, and our scouts have had more picks, and they've done a good job. And we've got a lot of players in our organization, our system, that we think have a chance to be NHL players one day. But we want to get them to the NHL when we think they can take somebody's job. And they're only going to get there when they take somebody's job and not before.
How do you feel about the same season where you have the Winter Classic and, again, here festivities and player demands during that time, and then you have the Olympic break coming up? Would you prefer the rest for the players, or would you just rather have it maybe separated? What is your thought on that?
Well, first off, I think it's going to be a fabulous season. I mean, you just touched on some. Going to the Eastern Conference, having the Winter Classic, and the festivities downtown Detroit leading up to the Winter Classic. March 6th to honor Nick Lidstrom and his incredible career. Sochi Olympics, and I'm anticipating we're going to have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players that are going to play in the Olympics. And then obviously 4 games against Toronto and Boston and 3 Pittsburghs and 3 Rangers and for Montreal. So I think it's going to be a fabulous season. I think it's important that we're going to have depth. You know, we really have 17 NHL forwards. We got to pare it down to 14. Our decisions were a little easier this week because of the long-term injuries to Helm and to Eves, but ultimately we're going to have to make some decisions and get pared down. But in the early going, to get out of the gate, you know, even though we've got 2 injured, and we sent Nyquist to the minors, and we've got Eves and Helm on LTI, we feel we're going to address 12 NHL forwards for our game against Buffalo that are established NHL forwards, and we're not dipping into kids, and we're not sure what they're going to do. So they've earned their way to play in the National Hockey League. So we're deep up front. We think we're deep in goal with the development of Mrazek and Gustafsson. We're not quite as deep on defense. We've got 7 defensemen we like in Detroit. We have a lot of kids in Grand Rapids that we think are going to evolve and develop into NHL players. You know, but if we get some key injuries, they're going to be tested maybe a little sooner than we think. But we feel good about the potential of our team for this year, and certainly feel good about we've got some kids coming about the future beyond this year.
And in final, are you able to put the pads on or skate any longer? Do you get out? Are you able? Is your time allow it?
Yeah, well, not very often. Actually, we in Traverse City during training camp, we had a celebrity alumni game, and Chris Osgood and I put on the pads, and we're on one team, and Jeff Blashill and Jim Bedard were another, and we had got, you know, Draper played, Chelios played, all our scouts. We made 2 teams, and we sold out the rink. There was 1,500 people, so we got the juices going one more night. But I certainly felt my age when the game was over. You know, I have a little interest in playing in the B game at the Winter Classic, but on the alumni game. But we'll see how it goes. Certainly, there might be some more people with bigger resumes than me, but it would be. It's always, you know what. As a player, brings you back to your childhood days. You know, putting the equipment on and you're talking in the locker room, and it just brings back incredible memories. And you go out there; it's a team sport. It's always fun to put the pads on. But you know, the job that I got, I'm in a rink most every night, but it's usually with a suit and a tie on and evaluating players and trying to kind of plan the direction of the team.
And goalies, I tell you got to be it's a physical position. It's very tough. You just don't stand there, boys and girls. It's the toughest position on the ice. You get terribly tired, I'm telling you. But, hey, we encourage you to try it.
Well, that's the new style. When I played, we did stand up. If they'd play like I did, there'd be more goals. The goalies today, since Patrick Waugh in the 90s, the goaltending position, I think, has evolved the most and had the biggest impact on the game. So certainly, to your point, the goalies now are real athletes.
Hey, Ken, thanks for your time as always. I appreciate it. Hey, go check out the Wings again. Home opener coming up. Season tickets still available. General Manager Ken Holland, Tommy Morris, Detroit City TV. Thank you. Appreciate it, Ken. Thank you so much. Here we go. Yes, boys and girls, Tommy Morris here, Detroit City TV, live from Hockeytown Cafe, again, for the annual Detroit Sports Broadcasters Association Red Wing Luncheon. And joining me here is Mr. Ken Kal, the voice, color commentator of the Red Wings. 97 won the ticket. You can hear him all the time when the Wings are playing. Ken, thanks for being here again today and upcoming season. Some new additions for the Red Wings. What are you looking forward from Danny Alfredson coming over from Ottawa and Stephen Weiss from Florida in leadership roles and their role in general with the team? What are you looking for?
Well, first and foremost, I think both players will make the power play better. And I looked at Daniel Alfredson's career numbers in the playoffs and the postseason, and he's almost a point-per-game player. He's played a little over 100 games. He's got about 100 points. So I think over the last couple of years, the Red Wings lacked scoring in the playoffs, and that alone tells me that the number should be up a little bit. Stephen Weiss, hard-working center iceman. I think he'll solidify that second line. He was skating with Alfredsson and Franzen for most of the preseason. And if that line really, I think, has a chance to become a really big line here in Detroit if they can stay healthy and do the things that they're capable of doing.
Yeah, and Stephen Weiss is a young leader, a 10-year veteran already, as a young man in the NHL. So hopefully that'll happen. New rules coming into play a little bit. Some new touch-up icing. Or waving off the icing effect. What do they call it? The semi-icing rule?
Hybrid icing.
Hybrid icing. Yeah. And also with the fighting with the players' helmets. Which do you like? Do you like both of them? What do you think about them in general?
Well, I really applaud the fact that the National Hockey League is trying to protect its players, and that's one of the reasons why you have to have your helmet on. And again, I think if you don't have a helmet on and you fall or step on a stick that's on the ice or a glove and you fall and you hit your head, it could be serious. And the league really doesn't want that. On the other hand, if you're going to punch a guy, I mean, you're going to have some bashed knuckles, I guess, too. So you don't see a lot of fighting anymore in hockey. It's really a skilled game. Again, from time to time there are altercations. But I like the rule and the hybrid icing. They looked at it in the preseason. The league liked it. And again, I think anytime you have two players rushing to touch a puck and you only have, 10 feet behind the goal, there's not a lot of room to stop. And if you're going full speed, 100 miles an hour, and somebody just nudges you a little bit and knocks you off balance, well, you're going to get seriously hurt. So I do applaud the league for that, and I'm looking forward to it, and I think it'll be better and safer for the players.
Now, with early season predictions or maybe some surprises around the league, who are you looking forward to? Who would you consider, maybe besides the Wings, the teams to beat this year?
I think the Boston Bruins, who went to the Stanley Cup final last year, they still have basically their whole team intact. They made some moves in the offseason. I think they're going to be a strong team. But from top to bottom in the Atlantic Division, that's the division the Red Wings are in, I just think that on any given night, anybody can win, and I don't think you're going to see one team like we saw Chicago last year just run away with it. It's going to be a battle over 82 games, and fans are going to see some outstanding hockey in that division. Out in the West, I still like Chicago. I think you look at their 6 defensemen, and that's key to Stan Bowman's the general manager there, and when Scotty Bowman, his dad, was coaching Detroit, you look at our defensemen here in Detroit, I mean, it's the same. They play the same way. They're puck control. They can get that puck to the forwards, send them on their way. Their forwards up front are talented, so they're going to be strong. I think St. Louis will be strong in the West, and I like Los Angeles and Anaheim. I think they're going to be strong as well.
Oh, L.A. Well, that's a good call. They had a little rough stretch last year, but they are still Stanley Cup champs last couple of years. A couple of years ago, that's a pretty good call. Also, we also have the Winter Classic, and in the same season, the winter break. Do you feel that it's going to have, what kind of effect do you feel it may have on the players? Due to time demands, especially during the Winter Classic, it being in Detroit, and then a 2-week break for the Winter Olympics. How do you feel that may be affecting the player, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think back several years ago, I think when the Red Wings, they lost to Pittsburgh in these years run together, but I kind of remember the Red Wings losing in Game 7. The next year, the Wings started in Sweden, and then I think they had the Olympics that year as well, or it was right around that time, and it was really taxing on the Red Wings just because of the fact they had so many superstar players and so many players playing in the Olympics. It's not going to change this year. In fact, they're playing in Sochi in Russia, and that's quite a ways away. So, by playoff time, there are going to be some tired hockey players, not only here in Detroit, but I think around the league as well. But on the other hand, with a 2.5-week break for the Olympics, I just think other players will be well rested, and they can pick up the slack if needed. Now, the Winter Classic that'll take place in Ann Arbor, I just can't wait for that. I mean, I really wanted to go to the Michigan hockey game when they played there, and I wasn't able to do it because of the Wings schedule, but I saw pictures, I've heard about it, and I just can't wait to get out there and see 115,000 fans just screaming and yelling with Maple Leaf jerseys on and Red Wing jerseys on, and it's just going to be a great day, New Year's Day.
Maple Leaf Nation?
Yeah, but we got a lot of Red Wings out there too, so it's going to be a great day, a lot of fun. And I hope it snows a little bit.
Oh, yeah, throw that mix into it.
Not a lot, but just a couple of flurries out there just to make it look like winter.
One thought on the with all the festivities and with the break also, again, with the Wings travel schedule, now they have to go out the West Coast, granted they make the playoffs. That has to probably save a little, rest them up a little bit, that they don't have to make those long trips any longer.
One of the keys, I think, in going to the East is when you have a day off between games, you can come back home and use that day as a practice day. When you play out in Anaheim and you, let's say between games 2 and 3, and you come home, that whole day's wasted. It's a travel day and you don't have time to practice. I think it's imperative when you have a young team like Detroit had against Chicago that you could come back home after one of those games and practice and hone your skills is a lot better. And not only that, sleeping in your own bed too. So. I just think that the travel will be, the wear and tear on the players will be a lot better, and as a result, they should be healthier, and you won't see as many injuries.
So are you going to play in the media game for that? Are you going to put the skates on for that?
You know what? I'd like to play in it, but I think when they're scheduling it, I think we're playing or we're on the road. I can't remember what day it was, but I did look at it. But again, if I can make it, I'd really love to play.
We'll have to talk to Rob Mattina about maybe trying.
There you go.